Hi everyone, welcome to Prairie Gnome Quilt Company. My name is Jessica. I'll be honest, I'm having kind of a cruddy day and not in a great mood. I just sat down to sew, but I forgot that when I walked away yesterday, I had a problem with my stitches and I just gave up and walked away, and I was like, I'll deal with it tomorrow. So now it's tomorrow and I came to sew and I was greeted with this. So let me show you what happened. I'm not sure if this happens to you, but it's almost like it has put the stitches on top of the fabric kind of up in the air. So I Googled it. This has happened before, but it's been a while and I can't remember what the fix was. So I Googled it, and of course, always it says check thread tension, but this particular situation was that it probably needs to be rethreaded and something in the tension discs. So what I'm going to do, and what you should do if ever you have any kind of issue where you think it's a tension problem or whatnot, instead of going straight to changing all of your tensions and adjusting all those settings, because let's be real, changing the tension can be very tricky and it can mess you up pretty bad. I'm going to seam rip this real quick. The camera's not in view of it, but I've got my handy dandy seam ripper. I'm going to seam rip this real quick. Luckily, I didn't get too far before I noticed it. And then before I touch the tension at all, because remember, I was sewing for hours and hours and my tension was fine. And then all of a sudden my bobbin ran out. I had to change my bobbin, changed my bobbin, and when I started sewing again, this is what started happening. And I was just kind of over it yesterday. So today we're going to tackle this. I took out my bobbin already. It was a brand new bobbin because, again, it ran out. What I recommend doing, what I'm doing right now, I don't think the camera can see my sewing machine, but I'm going to clean it real quick. Anytime you have something happen and you think there might be a tension issue or whatnot, one of your first steps should always be to clean it out. Instead of trying something that you think will be the fix and then being aggravated if it doesn't work, I always try kind of the top things all the time, whether it needs it or not. So I'll clean out my bobbin case or my area in there. Again, I'm not a professional, so I don't remember what it's called, but I take this little piece out, little bobbin case thing, and it is pretty dirty in there. So as you can see, I didn't clean it out. It's probably been a week or two since I've cleaned it. So I'm going to clean this out just in case, because that could be contributing. And then instead of just putting a new bobbin back in, we're going to go ahead and rethread it completely on the top. And again, whether you think that's the issue or not, I find that whenever something like this occurs, your stitches aren't correct. Sometimes you can get it where they look like pin dots instead of stitches, things like that. Just go through all these little steps. There's only like 3 of them. Just clean it out, rethread it, take out your bobbin, put the bobbin back in, and then see if it works. So we'll do this together. I'll show you what I mean. So we did that, step 1. My presser foot looks a little dusty, so I'm going to spray it. If you don't like to use spray, that's fine. You do you. I'm good with spraying mine, so I'll do me. Spray that. So I'm going, and again, I think I mentioned this before, professionals, I am not a professional. I don't know terminology. I'm teaching myself. I've taught myself, I'm teaching myself, and I've only been sewing for a year. Professionals say don't pull the thread up through the top, to snip it and pull the thread out the bottom when you rethread. I'm not going to do that. I pull it through the top, just rethread it real quick. If there's a problem with my tension discs, I won't know what to do. I'll have to end this video, do a bunch more research. Hopefully I don't require any maintenance on my machine, which I've never done before, never had to do. Again, I've only been sewing for a year, so my machine is a bit older. I bought it in COVID in 2020. I got the wild idea that I would get a sewing machine and make my family some masks, and it did not go well. And then it just sat in a box. I probably gave up after about a week. And the sewing machine just sat in a box, and I pulled it out a year ago, and that's when I started taking sewing seriously. So anyhow, I'm going to put my bobbin back in, make sure it's in there correctly. Thread is going the correct direction. I've gotten it through all the areas there that it's supposed to wind through. Put that back on. All right, so I rethreaded the top. I got it through my needle already. I redid the bobbin, and I cleaned the space down there. So I'm going to reline up my material. You could probably see in the video when I held it up that this material is not cut properly, so it looks a little wonky anyway. I forgot my sewing machine had turned off and turned back on, so my settings are wrong. So I'm going to do my length and my width back where I had them. Drop my needle. Let's do a little inch or two and see if this is fixed. It's sounding better. Yeah, it's looking a little better. So let's go forward. It looks okay, so I'm going to finish this line and then I'll show you guys. Take these off as I go. Okay, so what I'm doing on this project, I actually made another video with these. These are the half square triangle blocks that I am going to turn into larger quilting blocks. And then those are going to be used in the quilt that I'm taking to this fair that I was accepted to in May. And I'm trying to do something a little more traditional. You know, I tend to like the scrappy quilts, or I do a lot of patchwork with no actual pattern to it, and I'm not great at lining up my points and whatnot. As you'll see, this is going to be absolutely terrible. I might even rip this and redo it because I didn't line it up properly. As you can see, I didn't line it up properly, so I will have to rip this and redo it, but that's okay. Just as another tidbit to show you, if you don't line it up properly and I've gone too far away from the point, because this point is where the 4 squares are supposed to meet, and since my fabric isn't lined up or cut properly, it's off. When I made it off, I'll open it up and show you, the points in the center don't line up and are kind of wonky. So this quilt is going to be, it's diamonds and pinwheels, alternating every other one. But in any case, let's ignore that and let's just look at the stitches, because that's why we started this video. And as you can see, doing those steps fixed the stitches. Not sure if you can see it on the camera there. So our stitches are looking much, much better. They're not in the air anymore. It was probably some kind of combination of needing to rethread it up top, and because we had just changed the bobbin, I mean, that's probably what it mostly was, because I'd been sewing for hours before that and it was fine. So I probably could have just taken out the bobbin, threaded that one, and it probably would have been okay. But whenever something like that happens, it's always just best to do those things. Clean it and rethread both of them. And if you're still having problems, then you got some internet searching to do, I guess. But anyhow, so we're looking good now, except I'm going to go seam rip this and I'm going to line it up. These weren't going to be exact or perfect anyway. My plan, these are actually a bit wonky and a bit larger, and again, I'm not a professional. My sewing is considered homemade instead of handmade. Homemade is where it doesn't have that professional touch. It looks like something that, you know, could be made at home but not by a professional. So, which is fine with me. I like that. I love that. And I don't claim to be a professional. So my squares, being that they're a bit bigger and they're a bit off because I don't sew exactly precisely, I will have 4 squares that need to be combined, and then one of them slightly, like a fraction smaller, so then they don't line, the points don't line up, which again doesn't bother me. My plan, I'm going to take all of these, they're somewhere between 12.5 and 13 inches, and then I'm going to take my 12-inch square ruler and I'm going to cut them down. So I'll just pile a bunch of these on each other, and then I'll cut them so they are all the same, and that way when I do my rows, at least my rows are lined up. So in any case, that's what I'm doing, and that is how we corrected all of those crazy wonky stitches. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. I hope that all of you are having a better day than me, and hopefully give me about 30 minutes of sewing. It'll get me back in my happy place and we'll be good. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoys their weekend, and thanks for watching. Bye.